Okay, so in this series of videos, we're going to be looking at averages from frequency tables, and then in the second part of the playlist, we'll do it when the frequency table has grouped sections. So this first way to explore this is really just to do an example. It says, here are the number of goals scored by a team in 18 matches, some kind of sport they're playing. These are the results of the number of goals that they scored in 18 matches. We're going to try and find the mode, the mean, the median, and the range. Well, I'm going to start off by doing it from these numbers, and then we're going to translate it to this and see what the patterns are. So the mode from this one, clearly we can see that the mode, the most common number of goals that were scored, was 0 goals. So that was our mode here, and that's because that's the most common and there's 5 of them. Now the mean is found when you add all of these up. So it looks like we've got these all add up to 0, those are going to add up to a 4, these are going to add up to 8, 3 3s are 9, and these 2 5s add up to 10. So rather than adding them all up one at a time on a calculator before I divide it by how many there are, I actually can just quickly spot these are what they all add to. So on my calculator, I'm just going to clear this. I'm going to say that I have a 0, a 4, an 8, a 9, and a 10. So they all add up to 31. And you divide it by how many numbers there are in this list. And in this list, there are 18 numbers, so I'm going to do 31 divided by 18. So I'm going to do that divided by 18, and that is 1.72 goals. So the average is 1.72 goals. Now the median is found by finding the middle number. So remember, you can cross off a few numbers to find out what comes in the middle. Well, there's 18 matches here. We'll quickly talk about which the middle will be. You might think that the middle will be the one in the 9th position, but we'll see where it is. So if I cross them off, I'll do a few at a time. 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5, and then let's do one at a time. 1 2 3. Oh, I've actually got here 2 numbers in the middle. So you find the middle of those two, and the middle of those two is 1.5. So the median is 1.5 goals. Now we thought it was going to be in the 9th place, but it actually wasn't going to be in the 9th place for this one. What you do is you take the number of things that there are, you add 1, and then you divide it by 2, and it will tell you what position it is. So for 18, I'm going to add 1 to 18 to get 19, and I will divide that by 2, and it's going to be the number which is in the 9.5th position. So because it's in the 9.5th position, you can see that it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and there's the 10th, so it's in between, which is why it's 1.5. And then last of all, the range from these numbers is just going to be the biggest number, which is a 5, and then take away the smallest number, which is a 0. So the range is 5 goals. So we just need to translate all of this stuff that we've got here into a table, and then see if we can see how we could have done this. So this data is what I call the raw data. And then when you put it in a table, it becomes your processed data that you have. So first of all, we're going to say what the frequency is. How many zeros were there in our original list? I'm just going to erase all of these bits down here so we can actually see the numbers that we've got going on. No, I don't need to really. I'll get most of it out of the way like this. So it looks like we have 5 zeros. So I'm going to just say for the frequency that there are 5 of them. There are 4 1s, 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 2s. There are 3 3s. There are no 4s in that list, and there are 2 5s. So let's try and see how we can tell what the mode is. The mode is 0 goals, and that's because it has the highest frequency. So I can say here that the mode is actually, when you look at it from a table, it is the one with the highest frequency. The highest frequency. Now the mean, what we did is we added up all of these numbers. Now the mistake that people usually make when they find the mean is they would do 0 plus 5 plus 1 plus 4 plus 2 plus 4 blah 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 blah. They would add all of these up and divide it by how many numbers that they could see. But that's not what we're being asked to do. We're actually being asked to find out the original data's mean. Not the mean of these numbers, but the mean of the numbers that this table is representing. So we said that these 5 zeros added up to a 0, and that these 4 1s added up to a 4, and these 4 2s added up to an 8. What we actually were doing there is we were multiplying by the number of goals by the frequency to find out how many goals were being scored in each of those sections. So you might like to add another column in, and you can say that it's the goals multiplied by the frequency. So we get 0, 4, 8, 9, 0, and 10. You can see the equivalence of those numbers, 0, 4, 8, 9. There's a 0 because there were no 4s scored, and then that 10 that we have at the end. And then what we did beforehand is we added up all of these numbers, which were here, and they added up to 31. and we added up, or we saw how many numbers were in the list, which was 18. Now think to yourself, what part would tell you how many numbers were in the original list from the table? Well, it's these ones added together. 5 plus 4 plus 4 plus 3 plus 2 is 18. So to find the mean, you do the total of the goals times the frequency, and you divide it by the total of that frequency that we have there. So you do 31 divided by 18. Now the median is a bit harder to think about. Again, you'll start off by thinking, okay, well there were 18 matches in total. It's going to be the 9.5th position. And then you think about where all these numbers are. Well, there are 5 numbers in this first section. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the 9.5th is in between these two that we have here. I'm just going to do that one more time. There were 5 here, 4 here, so there were 9 in these first two, which represents these 9 numbers here. The 10th number is in the 2 group, so the 9.5th is in between the 1 and the 2, which is the 1.5. And then last of all, the range, what people usually do, which is a complete mistake, is they actually would work for this one. Unfortunately, it would work. They would look in the table and say, oh, that's the highest number and that's the lowest number, so I'll just subtract them. But actually, we're meant to be looking at this number and this number here, and we subtract those to find out what the range is. So I've got a question then that you can try that is similar. Keep referring back to this one if you need to. I'm not going to be giving you the raw data this time. If you feel like you need to write out the raw data to help you, that is perfectly fine. You wouldn't be penalised for doing that. Okay, so have a go and pause the video here. Okay, it says Joel counted the number of sweets inside several different packets. We're going to find the modal number of sweets per packet. So these are the number of sweets in each packet, and these are the frequencies. So the modal number of sweets per packet is the one with the highest frequency, and the one with the highest frequency is 9. So the most common number of sweets in a packet is 29 sweets, because it's the one that has the highest frequency. The mean number of sweets per packet. Well, what I'm going to do in this last column here is I'm going to do the number of sweets and I'm going to multiply it by the frequencies. And that's basically going to be telling me how many sweets there are in that column. So there were no 24s, which means there were no sweets. There were no 25s, there were no sweets. There were 4 26s, so I'm going to do 4 26. That means there were 104 sweets in those packets. I'll do the 27 times 5, which is 135. I'll do the 28 times 5, which is 140. There were 9 packets that had 29 in, or 29 times 9, 261 sweets. I'll do 8 times 30. 8 times 30, which is 240. I'll do 31 times 3. You'd pretty much guaranteed to get this in like a calculator one for this amount of stuff that we've got here. So that's 93. And then I've got one lot of 32. So I'm going to do what I did before. I'm going to find out how many sweets there were in total. So I'm going to add up all of these numbers. I'll do 104, 135, 140, 261, 240, 93, and 32. They add up to 1005. So that actually means that Joel counted 1005 sweets in total. Now we need to find out how many packets of sweets he did. So I'm going to don't need to bother adding the zeros, but I'll do the 4, the 5, the 5, the 9, the 8, the 3, and the 1. So it sounds like he counted 35 packets of sweets. So I'm going to do the total number of sweets that there were, and I'll divide it by how many packets there were to find out how many there were on average. So that's 1005 divided by 35. And I'm just going to do that to one decimal place. It would normally tell you, but I'm going to go with one decimal place and do 28.7 sweets per packet. 28.7 sweets per packet. So I did 1005 divided by 35, which is 28.7 sweets. Now sometimes people are like, oh, I should round that to a whole number of sweets, but you don't have to round that to a whole number of sweets. It's probably going to say give it to one decimal place. The mean is not always going to be a whole number. Okay, we're now going to find the median number of sweets per packet. Well, if you remember from what we did on this one up here, to find the medianth position, you take the number of things, add 1, and then divide it by 2. That will tell you the position of where the median is. It won't tell you what the position is. It won't tell you what the median is. The median wasn't 9.5. It was the 9.5 position, which was 1.5 goals. So here there are 35 things. So I'm going to do 35 plus 1, which is 36, and then I'm going to do a half of 36. 36 divided by 2 is 18, so I'm looking for the 18th position, or the number in the 18th position? Well, these zeros don't get included, so I've got 4, then I've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Oh, so the 18th one that I was just saying landed in this group that we've got here. So the median is 29 sweets. Now you don't have to do this tally job. What you could do is you could do something called the cumulative frequency. You could say, okay, well there's 4 here, that brings me up to 9 sweets, that brings me up to 14. So the 14 sweets are in those groups. So if I had 9 more, I get 23. So the first 23 sweets are up to this point. So that must mean that the 18th sweet is somewhere in this group. But I quite like doing this tally rather than what we call here, which is the cumulative frequency. And then last of all is the range of number of sweets per packet. So we need to find out what is the highest number of sweets that there were in a packet. That was 32. Now you might think the lowest number of sweets per packet was 24, but there actually weren't any that had 24 in, or 25. So I'm going to do 36 and 22. The largest number of sweets was 36, and the smallest number of sweets, was 32, and the smallest was 26. And 32 take away 26 is 6 sweets. So the range is 6 sweets. As usual, I'm going to link in the description some more questions that you can do to practice this. If you need to, you could always write out the raw data. What I mean by this is you could write out 26, 26, 26, 26 4 times. You could write out 27 5 times. That's actually what we're doing when we're finding the mean. We're actually finding the mean of all of this long list of numbers. There's 35 of them. So what we're doing in all of these things, but the table has the processed form of it that we've got here. I guess I should have had these little multiplication symbols all the way down there for what I was multiplying. Okay, so see if you want to practice some from the my link in the description, and I hope that they go well for you. Found this video helpful? Then why not drop it a like and consider subscribing to my channel. If you'd like the next video in the playlist, you can click here to be taken straight to it. And as always, wishing you the very best for all your studies.